It's another offseason, and it seems like it's going to be yet another offseason of Ray Davis, the billionaire, crying poor.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a criminally addicted Texas Rangers fan, covered this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about the canary in the coal mine. It looking like the Rangers are going to be penny pitching in a big way this offseason, why there could be some drastic change, and why that would be absolutely horrendous, embarrassing, and incredibly upsetting for this Rangers franchise and fan base. Before we get into all that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Now, earlier this week in the Dallas Morning News, Evan Grant, the Rangers beat writer who has been covering this team for, I think, longer than I have been born. Maybe it's a close tie. But Evan Grant wrote a couple articles this week that made me turn my head and go, huh? What? Absolutely not. And then I took a second to read them, and they were incredibly frustrating. Not because of what Evan Grant was implying there, not because of it was bad reporting. Evan Grant has his finger to the pulse of this team like very few others. But this is kind of the canary in the coal mine of how this offseason is going to go. This is now the third offseason in a row where the Rangers, it seems like, are going to cry, oh no, we're so poor. Guys, we're so poor. Please don't expect us to spend any money. Now, later on in the show, I'll talk about why all of these things are insane, of claiming, oh no, I'm so poor, I can't spend money, why the Rangers do very much have money to spend. But I just want to talk first about what is giving this indication the Rangers are going to be absolute penny pitching cheapskates this offseason. Well, the first sign was letting Mike Maddox go. Now, Mike Maddox was well compensated, but probably not as well compensated as he should be. And he had been with the Rangers for a long time. I'm pretty sure he makes his home here in DFW in the off seasons. His family was raised here. A lot of his kids were raised here. He spent a lot of time here, more than he had at other places. And the fact that he just walked after having maybe the best season of his career. I mean, truly, this was an incredible season for Mike Maddox and for the Rangers pitching staff. This is the greatest pitching staff in Rangers franchise history. And Mike Maddox had a big old part in that. But him walking to an absolute disaster of an organization, a complete clusterfork, if you will, of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, to go take the exact same job there under a first-year manager and a team that has not made the postseason since 2014, has not won a postseason game singular, since 2009, makes you raise some questions of, Rangers not offering him a good enough contract? Were they not offering him what he should have been making? And then you look a little bit lower in this organization, a little bit, more underturning some rocks in this organization. And the Rangers are not going to bring back Colby Lewis. This is reported by Evan Grant. Colby Lewis was a special assistant to the general manager. It's basically just about saving a few dollars, not a whole lot of dollars. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, which in Major League Baseball terms is pennies. Gosh, I wish I was rich enough to think hundreds of thousands of dollars is pennies. But that's kind of where Major League Baseball organizations are, because they make a whole lot of money. And Lewis was probably the least compensated of all of these special assistants to the general manager. There are guys like Michael Young, Ian Kinsler, Darren Oliver were also special assistants to the GM. I believe they are still staying on, at least for now. But Lewis was more hands-on, and he was a big part of this organization. I mean, he was an incredible comeback story. I mean, he is a huge part. I mean, he's a huge face of this Rangers franchise. And just letting him go, not having any role in the organization to just save a few pennies, is embarrassing. I mean, it's truly embarrassing that they are doing this level of cheapness. There's also some concerns about the minor league payroll, the minor league coaching staff, of how much those guys are going to end up making. I mean, it's not a good sign. It is not a good look. It is not something that really matters in the grand scheme of things. It's like, okay, well, we're going to pay, Jacob deGrom 35 or $35.2 million. Like it's not that big of a deal. I mean, Jacob deGrom's contract is something we'll talk about a little bit later on, but basically it is not that big of a deal. And to be pinching pennies in such a major way is a bad sign. It is a sign that there will be much more major pennies pinched in different ways, which is mainly the roster construction. It is a sign of high alert. This team is crying poor already in a way that they haven't in seasons past. This is not a new trend of crying poor. This is something the Rangers have been doing, something that every Major League Baseball team outside of the Mets, the Yankees, and the Dodgers, heck, even the Mets and Yankees occasionally will do it. Oh, no, we can't afford that luxurious expense. They can. All of these teams can afford the luxurious expense. But the penny pinching to this degree is frightening. And it is kind of the harbinger of, oh boy, something bad is about to happen. And it's not a huge surprise that Ray Davis, Mr. Penny Pincher himself, after 2 seasons of disappointment and mediocrity, is like, okay, well, we're gonna cut this thing down a little bit. We're not gonna put forth all of these resources. I understand that. I don't agree with it. I don't really respect it at all. I understand it to some degree of cutting it back just a little bit. But it's every offseason that he goes, oh no, we're so poor. Us poor Texas Rangers. We only have this, multi-billion-dollar stadium. We only own our TV company that we've been, whining and moaning about for the last half decade, or however long it's been that they've been publicly whining and moaning about, not owning their own regional sports network and all the mess that was Bally Sports Southwest and all of that stuff that has been theoretically resolved, and now partnering with Victory Plus and all of those different things, and also winning a championship not that long ago, and immediately after winning a championship being like, oh guys, what, we don't have any money. We didn't just get a whole bunch of money from all the playoff revenue and from all the World Series revenue and from all of the revenue from all of those very, very, very expensive hoodies and caps and every single championship bit of merch that you could possibly get, that like this old thing that just sits on my desk, like that thing, that flag that sits right back there, that was way more expensive to buy than it should have been because it has sentimental value, because a baseball team winning a championship means so much more to the city than any company doing anything else really possibly could. They still keep crying poor after all of these things. And these little penny pinching moves here and there are signs that there could be a lot bigger penny pinching moves in the next coming months and weeks that has me scared out of my mind for what the 2026 Rangers will look like. And if this article by Evan Grant of projecting what the Rangers payroll situation will look like in 2026 is anywhere near remotely accurate, it is a sign that Ray Davis should sell this team right freaking now. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Let's look at some of these odds from FanDuel right now. Let's look at the NBA and what they've got going on with all of their action. Let's see. Tonight, the Clippers are not favored against the Phoenix Suns, minus 2.5. The NBA Finals, the Thunder are the favorites to win the whole dang thing at plus 200. Cleveland Cavaliers, second favorite at plus 650, and the Nuggets at plus 700 to win the whole dang thing. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Shout out to every day making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back, and I will be looking at the last category of starting pitchers, the bargain bin, where the Rangers may just have to be shopping if all of these signs of cheapness and brokeness or broke boyedness, not actual brokenness, are coming to fruition. That'll be on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Rangers. But this is an embarrassing look for the Texas Rangers. Not a small market team, not a team in Cincinnati or Tampa Bay or Pittsburgh or wherever. This is in Dallas, Fort Worth. This is in Arlington, the middle of Dallas, Fort Worth. This is Texas's team for the most part. At least they were when they were actually good and the Astros were terrible. But this roster projection by Evan Grant calling for some very drastic moves to make the Rangers save just a little bit in payroll. The first couple of these moves make sense, and that's something that I've even talked about before, of just either non-tendering or trading away or doing whatever to get off of the salary of Jonah Heim and Adolis Garcia. Now, Jonah Heim is projected to make about $6 million in arbitration next year. He is not a $6 million player. I fully support the Rangers just going ahead and saying, hey, this is not a wise allocation of our resources. Thank you for the World Series. Thank you for being an all-star in 2023. But outside of that, it has been pretty rough for Jonah Heim, who has been one of the worst qualified hitters in baseball for the last 2 seasons. And the defense has been fine. He's a good game caller. Pitchers trust him a lot. His framing has been not as great the last couple of years. The arm has been controlling the running game has been not really great the last couple of years. I have no qualms with just saying, all right, adios, Jonah Heim. Maybe we can restructure a deal for like the $1-2 million range, but that's about where Jonah Heim's value is right now. Now, with Adolis Garcia, I have a little bit more a problem of just straight up cutting bait with him. He's projected to make about $12.5-ish million in arbitration this offseason. It's year 3 of arbitration. So, I mean, that makes sense why they're leaning more towards saying, hey, we're not sure if this is the wisest allocation of our resources. I still don't agree with it. I don't think that you can find that much better of a player because you still have to replace Adolis Garcia. If you cut Adolis Garcia and Jonah Heim off the roster, you got to go find somebody else to play those positions. And those guys aren't always cheap. They aren't. I mean, Adolis Garcia, he is not what he was. He is not what he was in 2023. He is not what he was in 2024. He was actually a valuable player in 2025. That defense is a valuable commodity, but the Rangers needed his bat to be one of the best in the lineup. It needed to be all-star caliber, and it wasn't. It just wasn't, and I don't know that it's going to be. So I think trading away Adolis Garcia, there is some value there. He was about a 3-win player this year. I mean, he played truly exceptional defense. I think he should have been the Gold Glove winner in right field this year. Willie Abreu is a great pick. He's a fantastic defender out there in right field. But I think Adolis Garcia was just a little bit better, and he was truly exceptional this year. And still, even the baseline of Adolis Garcia is still, a guy who's going to drive in 85 runs. He's still hit 19 home runs this year. That's the lowest he's ever hit. Every other year has been 25 home runs or more and about, 80 or so RBIs. This is the valuable player, but not what the Rangers need him to be. So I understand the moving on from that. It's $12.5 million. It's expensive. It's basically about, $3 to $5 million per WAR for a player in free agency. So a guy who's about a 3-win player making $12.5 million, that's right in the reasonable range. Again, not what the Rangers need him to be. So moving that money elsewhere, I understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it because unless you're going to go sign an outfield bat in free agency, which again would probably cost about that, if not more. And I don't know how many outfielders there are on this free agent class that are better than Adolis Garcia. I mean, Adolis Garcia is a fine player, but expensive. These free agents in the outfield, everyday starters, they get very expensive. You're going to cut $12.5 million off Adolis Garcia, off the payroll with Adolis Garcia to go sign Kyle Tucker to a $40 million a year deal. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen with this team. And so the plugs for who's already on the roster, well, you're looking at maybe Josh Smith playing more time in right field. I don't think we're going to see Jock Peterson playing in right field. You want to go kick the tires and bring back Leody Taveras. Sam Haggerty's not going to play in right field. It's going to be Alejandro Ozuna, who had a sub 600 OPS this year, who had 2 home runs in 176 plate appearances. You need home runs. You need clutch RBIs. I mean, there's a guy who knows the strike zone well. You've already got that skill set. He already has, those reverse, those splits where you've got a lot of left-handed bats that can't hit left-handed pitching. You don't really need to add one more in Alejandro Ozuna, which I don't think that he is an everyday starting caliber right fielder right now. That is not an everyday kind of a player. And so you're going to be making your team actively worse to save that money. And where are you going to redistribute it? Where are you going to redistribute that $12.5 million? I don't know that it's going to be anywhere. It's just going to be saved. And by saved, I mean, it's not going to the fans. You are not getting money back on your, Victory Plus subscription, your TV subscription, your season tickets, your merch, your hot dogs. That's not, the savings not going to you. It's going to Ray Davis's pocket, the other owner's pocket. That's where these savings would be going. They're not reinvested, reallocated into this team. They're just going to the already rich people who are telling you how poor they are while they're taking all your money. And then the big coup de grace, this made me actively poop my pants when I read this, of suggesting, not really even suggesting, saying this basically is a must happen, that the Rangers need to cut one of their two biggest salaries. Their two biggest salaries are Jacob deGrom and Corey Seager. And I'm saying, how can you even fathom trading away Jacob deGrom, who is one of the best pitchers on earth, just came back and had that healthy season you've been looking for? Was that guy that you signed to this big old deal and hoped that he could be, 2 years ago. You won a championship without him, and then you add him to this roster, and you saw how darn good he is. And that's in year one of coming off of missing basically 2 full seasons. He was that good, a sub-3 ERA in 170-something innings, 30 starts at age 37. This guy is a miracle that he is doing that kind of stuff. The comeback player of the year. You cannot trade him away. That is such a horrendous look for the franchise. And you definitely can't trade away Corey Seager. Are you kidding me? Even contemplating trading away Corey Seager, the best player on this team, one of the best players in Major League Baseball. You're going to trade away a guy who completely turned around your franchise. These two guys were signs of building blocks of, hey, this team has been mediocre to garbage to bad to embarrassing to just flat out irrelevant for a half decade. And you bring those guys in, there's finally buzz about this team in 2022. And then Corey Seager hits one of the most iconic home runs in your franchise's history, finishes second in MVP, only to Shohei Ohtani, who is doing Shohei Ohtani things, which I feel like should count as an MVP award of its own. Wins you your first ever championship, is your first ever World Series MVP. There should be a statue outside, his number retired, his jersey hanging in the rafters forever. And you're going to think about trading him 2 years after he won your team the first ever World Series title in your franchise's history? That is an abysmal look. The fact that that is even under consideration, is even being talked about, is embarrassing. When guys would talk, when radio guys this season would talk about, oh, you got to trade Corey Seager. Oh, you got to trade Corey Seager. That was an incredibly stupid, embarrassing look for them. They did not know ball, and they should feel embarrassed about themselves that they got paid money to talk about sports when they don't know a darn thing about sports. You cannot trade your franchise superstar away. Do you see the vitriol? Even if you're not a Mavs fan, surely you see the vitriol that is still there months later and will be there for the rest of time for Nico Harrison trading away Luka Doncic. Trading him away. And Luka didn't even win a championship for the city. Corey Seager won a championship for the city, the first championship this city has had since 2011 with Dirk. You see how immortalized Dirk is around this city. And Corey Seager is getting up there. If he had a little bit more personality, then he might be almost as revered as Dirk Nowitzki. But there are a lot of kids growing up, any kid from, age 6 to age 18 or so, that's the first championship they remember of DFW. If they are DFW sports fans, the Rangers World Series in 2023 is the first championship they remember. That is something special. That is a trust with the fans of, hey, we built something special. We want to continue to build something special, which is what Chris Young has been saying. And the money that Ray Davis is pouring in is the absolute opposite. You also can't trade away Marcus Semien because you're going to be eating a lot of money to just trade away a superstar. And you're making your team actively worse. And there aren't a whole lot of other better options out there. Josh Smith is fine. His defense is not that much, is not anywhere near what Marcus Semien's is. at second base. And his offense is really not that much better. You look at the totality of the last couple of seasons. If you just remember the first half, then you tuned out in the second half, you'd think, wow, Josh Smith is a million times better hitter than Marcus Semien. But you look at the totality of the last 2 seasons, they're not that dissimilar. And then you look at 2023 and seasons past that Marcus Semien has done. I'm sorry. I love Josh Smith. He's a great player. He is a valuable part of this team, but he is never putting up a 7-win season. That's not happening. It's not. He's not going to hit up a 40-plus homer season and play Gold Glove caliber defense at second base. He's not doing it. That's not happening unless he just completely sells out for power and he's hitting, 150 with 40 bombs. That's not necessarily the most valuable player. And I don't think there's any world where he could even possibly sell out to that degree and get that level of power, because that's not who Josh Smith is. That's not who Josh Smith wants to be. But when you trade away these players, when you signal to the world that, hey, we're not a serious franchise, when you sign guys to this caliber of deal, the aging curve is baked into the money. That's how free agency works. That's how it's always worked. That's how it's always going to work, because these players are paid pennies early on in their career. If they make it to free agency, they earn the right to be overpaid in their late 30s to 40 somethings because of how little they made. It makes up for how underpaid they were early on. And also, you had to pay a premium to get these guys. If you do not draft them and develop these guys, it is very hard to go get a Corey Seager. There were not other teams that were offering him 10 years, $325 million. Now, the back half of that deal, or heck, even the back, maybe just the back 3 years of that deal, are going to look ugly. There was nobody that was willing to offer Marcus Semien a 7th year because they thought, hey, maybe that'll get ugly. That's why the Rangers went up to 7 years to go and get him, to bring him into this franchise, to turn this around. It is a promise to these players that, hey, you're a pillar of this franchise. We expect you to perform and to bring a legitimacy to this franchise that we do not currently have. That's why we need to pay you this much money and overpay you a little bit, because that's how free agency works. And if you start trading off these superstars, these guys that won you the first championship in your franchise's history, you become an unserious organization. Other players in free agency will see that and they say, hey, I don't want to go there, because if I'm not immediately awesome, they might just trade me away and fans will start hating me and everything. It will not be a good situation to be a part of. And you're going to lose that option to go get these star players in free agency if they see your team as illegitimate and embarrassing. Coming up, we're talking about why these excuses just do not hold any water and why it's the same excuses every single year from a guy who has way more money than you could possibly imagine. Right after this. This show is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup. You can play anywhere that PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using PrizePicks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs. It keeps every game exciting. I like playing my favorite players, like, I could go with Pat Mahomes, or I could go with, I could go with Luka Doncic to see how my predictions play out. The new stacks feature, it's a game changer. You can pick more or less on Luka's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Now, this is yet another offseason, the third offseason since the World Series championship, where Ray Davis is crying, oh no, please don't ask me to spend money. I am so poor. I am just a poor billionaire. I am running this franchise like a business. It's the same excuses every single year. It's, I'm running this franchise like a business. The sports team is not a normal business. It's, Bally is doing so bad. They make me so poor. They pay me these hundreds of $millions. They're only paying me $95 million as opposed to $110 million. I can't possibly spend an extra $3 million here or there on an okay free agent. No, I can't possibly, but he can. He can't. And then this year, they finally own their own TV station. They own the rights. There's no more excuse of, oh, Bally this, Bally that, Bally the other. No, it's all paid out. It's all done. It is all dealt with. And they also made it easier. It's still difficult to get the Rangers Sports Network on whatever TV station you're actually trying to watch TV on. I'm still not sure if it's on YouTube TV or Sling or Hulu or all those streaming TV options. I know it's on DirecTV. I know it's on AT&T Uverse. I know it's on Spectrum. But other than that, I know it's a bit of a hassle to get that. So they partner with Victory Plus, which did a good job with the Stars in its first season of existence. It also partnered with the Anaheim Ducks, and I think there might be other teams now that are getting in on the action. But they also partnered with the Rangers, and instead of it being free, like it was for all the Stars games, they charge everybody $20 a month to go and get this Victory Plus. That way they could put it in the hands of people, they could make it accessible, and they could make money, because they're not just getting your $20 a month. If you are doing that, they are also showing you a whole lot of advertisements, which are making them a lot of money. Victory is paying the Rangers a lot of money to have the rights to stream their product. People are actually going to get to do so because Bally's streaming service their streaming options were so terrible, I think intentionally, so that people would not be streaming games. They would be just watching on their TVs. But now, we can't afford it because the TV network is so expensive. No, it's not. It cannot be that expensive. You cannot be losing this much money. And you still made so much money that you immediately did not invest from that World Series. Immediately after that World Series, it was, hey, let's bring back Jordan Montgomery. No, too expensive. We broke. We're so poor. Oh no, we so poor. No, you're not. These franchises are making money hand over fist. This is the best time to be a Major League Baseball owner because they're making so much money. The ratings from this World Series were through the freaking roof. That gives a lot of money to Fox, which pays a lot of money to Major League Baseball, which pays a lot of money to all the owners of these teams. They just do. You see how expensive these ticket prices are getting. You see how expensive parking is. You see how expensive everything is in life. And these guys have so much money. I cannot stand hearing these guys cry poor when everybody in the country is struggling financially, when grocery prices, when gas prices, when everything prices are just so unbelievably expensive. And the richest people keep crying, oh no, we're poor. We poor. No, you are not poor. You are the opposite of poor. You're getting all of this, I don't know about free, but basically free advertising for your energy transfer company, putting those big, ugly patches on the uniform of the team. You think he paid fair market price to advertise his own company on his own team's uniforms? No, absolutely not. These teams are making money hand over fist from not only that, but legalized gambling. You see how many advertisements are out there for gambling sites? They're making a lot of money. Their advertisements are here. They are making a lot of money, and to be able to do that, to use the licenses of these leagues, these players' likenesses, they have to pay the league a lot of money to have those rights. That money goes to the teams to therefore theoretically pay the players. There's a lot of money in being a sports owner right now, and they make more money by convincing you that they are so poor they can't possibly afford. That's how they turn the logic of these fans against their own players, and not their ire not towards the owners, but to the players of, oh, this guy isn't living up to his contract. They earned that contract by being as good as they were before they signed that contract. That's how this works. The money, if your money that you're paying to watch these games, to go to these games, to get merch, to whatever you do that funnels into Major League Baseball, if it's not going to the players, it's going to the owners. Would you rather the $35 or whatever you pay for a t-shirt or something go towards Ray Davis or the player whose name is on the back of that t-shirt? For me, I'd much rather go to the players. It is just so infuriating to watch these owners again and again cry poor. And not to mention, I don't want to say because the Dodgers won back-to-back World Series, but the owners will say that's a factor. They were going to do this anyway, but after the 2026 season, I've talked about it earlier this week, I believe. But because the Dodgers won back-to-back World Series, the owners will use that as an excuse. They were always going to find some excuse to say, oh no, oh, these poor rich guys, we're so poor compared to the other rich guys. We can't afford to get into the luxury tax that the owners themselves instituted on themselves to give themselves an excuse to cry poor. The luxury tax was not something that was just, inherent in the sport. It was something the owners put into the collective bargaining agreement so that they could cry, oh no, we can't possibly spend this tax that we put on ourselves so that we wouldn't have to spend so much money. It is there because they wanted to give themselves an excuse to act like they're broke when they are making gobs of money, obscene amounts of money. And because the Dodgers have won back-to-back World Series, these owners are going to say, hey, we've got to have an actual salary cap. That is a non-starter. That will not happen. Major League Baseball Players Association has done a lot of good for the sport and for sports in general. You know why free agency exists? Not just in Major League Baseball, but because of sports. In all of sports, it exists because of the Major League Baseball Players Association. Before that, these owners would completely, corruptly just take all agency away from these players. They would just trade them away for pennies. They would pay them pennies. They could not negotiate their own salaries. They did not have rights to choose where they wanted to go. They got drafted to a team, and then they would be forced to kind of stay there forever. They would not have any agency. The Players Association created free agency. It was the first time any sport had free agency. I mean, go back and look at what it was like in the 90s and what led to free agency being a thing. It is a good thing for these players and for these teams. It forces them to be competitive. And so because the owners want an actual salary cap, and Major League Baseball Players Association will never allow our salary cap, there's going to be a lockout. How long it's going to be, if it's going to take over the entire 2027 season, I don't know at this point. But if you are crying poor when you could possibly lose out on an entire season of Major League Baseball in 2027, and if you lose out on an entire season, the damage will be irreparable. You will be shooting yourself in the foot, and people will stop caring about baseball even more than they already have stopped caring about baseball if you miss an entire season. And so, for sure, you have the 2026 season. Why on earth would you not use every chance to go for it in 2026 when you have this roster of guys who are a little bit on the aging curve, but stars like Nathan Eovaldi, like Jacob deGrom, like Corey Seager, like Marcus Semien has been in the past, and these young budding superstars like Wyatt Langford, like Evan Carter? Why would you not use every chance to go for it when the season in 2027 could be done? And by that point, who knows what Corey Seager's aging curve is going to look like? Who knows if we're even going to see that'll be 2027 is supposed to be the last year of the contract of Nathan Eovaldi. He's a free agent after that. He'll be in his late 30s. At that point, Jacob deGrom will probably be, I think, 40. No, 38, 39. At that point, he will be heading into his age 40 season. After that, it is win now time. And the fact that again and again and again, we keep getting Ray Davis crying, I'm so poor. I'm so broke. Please don't ask me to spend money. It's embarrassing. And I don't know how he's not more embarrassed than I am for him. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.